press to our Teamster building here this afternoon. And thank you for joining us. Today we're going to go ahead and we're going to announce the results of Teamsters Local 320's strike authorization vote that our members have taken over the last couple of weeks at the University of Minnesota. I'm Brian Aldies, BrianAldes, and I'm the principal officer and secretary treasurer of Teamsters Local 320. And I want to remind everybody that speaks today to make sure you announce your name, title, and spell your name as well. Teamsters Local 320 represents 1,500 service workers at the University of Minnesota. The service workers at the University of Minnesota, represented by Teamsters Local 320, work in many different job classes throughout all of the University of Minnesota campuses across the state of Minnesota. Our folks are delivery truck drivers, janitors, custodial workers, buildings and grounds, land care, people that work in waste and recycling, they're lab animal attendants, and I think, as we have all heard, they're food service workers as well. The 1,500 service workers at the University of Minnesota are the people who are responsible for the quality of life of our students who live and attend school on the University of Minnesota campuses throughout the state. Today, you'll hear from myself about where we're at in bargaining with the University of Minnesota. We'll also be announcing the strike authorization results. We'll be letting the public know when we intend on filing our intent to strike as well. But in addition, you're also going to hear from a University of Minnesota worker and Teamster and steward, Mick Kelly, who's a 20-year cook in Pioneer Hall. You'll also hear from another Teamster and worker at the University of Minnesota, Tawfiq Hassan. Tawfiq is a buildings and grounds worker over on the West Bank campus. And last but not least, you'll also hear from Sarah Parcells. Sarah is a 21-year buildings and grounds worker at the University of Minnesota. Sarah is also a trustee at Teamsters Local 320, and Sarah works in Kaufman Memorial Union. Before we get into the results, I want to make sure that I let everybody know that the 1,500 service workers at the University of Minnesota, represented by the Teamsters, they value the work that they do at the University of Minnesota, and they understand and they value the service that they provide the community that the campuses are located in, and they value the services to the students. Today we counted the ballots. Over the last 2 weeks, we've been conducting the strike authorization vote across the University of Minnesota campuses. The 1,500 service workers represented by Teamsters Local 320 voted by a 93% margin to authorize a strike at the University of Minnesota. First thing tomorrow morning, the Teamsters will be filing their intent to strike with the State Bureau of Mediation Services, and we'll also be serving that notice to the University of Minnesota. We're not excited that we're at this point in our bargaining. We've always approached our bargaining with the intent of reaching a mutual agreement that meets the needs of the people represented by the Teamsters. To give an update on the bargaining and why we're at where we're at in our negotiations, we began this process several months ago. Our goal is to address our members' priorities in whole, to bring service workers at the University of Minnesota out of poverty, to negotiate a $20 an hour minimum wage, to ensure that service workers at the University of Minnesota have year-round work and can make their work at the University of Minnesota the career that it should be. We have had record high or historically high inflationary rates over the last 12 months. And so it's a priority to negotiate wage increases that meet or exceed the rates of inflation. Unfortunately, the University of Minnesota has apparently their priority is to continue to perpetuate the poverty that they create by their low wages. They have yet to meet the union's priorities in negotiations. And in fact, we were scheduled to be in negotiations all day last Thursday and all day last Friday, and of course, with hopes of being able to reach a settlement. First thing Thursday morning that the University of Minnesota did is serve the union's negotiations committee a last best final offer. You've all seen that, the university has made comments that their last best final offer provides 8% wage increases for Teamsters workers on the University of Minnesota campus. That's true only in very few cases. Many of our members, in fact, those that it impacts the most, would receive an increase of less than 4%. So while they're already living in poverty and they're earning poverty wages, that brings them farther behind than they would normally be. The University of Minnesota also, in their last best final offer, included language that takes away the unions and its members' legal right to collectively bargain health insurance away. So here we are, we're at the unfortunate point in negotiations where we had to conduct the strike authorization vote. We will have to file our intent to strike. I don't know if the university believes that the union and its membership are bluffing, but the union's membership has spoke loud and clear. We are not willing to continue to earn poverty wages. And what the University of Minnesota needs to understand is it's the same thing that our members understand, and that's when you raise the tide for one, you raise the tide for all, and that's what we're here to do. We will be providing our full support to the membership. And what will happen from here, once we file our intent to strike, we will enter into a 10-day cooling off period. The State Bureau of Mediation Services, we hope, will order both parties back to the table, and where we can hopefully continue to bargain, we'll bargain in good faith, and we will hope to reach an agreement that works for the members represented by the Teamsters. That should happen within that 10-day cooling off period. And with that, I want to invite Mick Kelly up to the podium to address you all.
Mick Kelly, M-I-C-K-K-E-L-L-Y. I've been a cook in dining service for the last 20 years. Today is an important day for us. We intend to end poverty wages at the University of Minnesota. When we talk about poverty wages, it's not a rhetorical device, it's a fact that we're living. Right now at the University of Minnesota, there's people who have worked here for 25 years and are receiving $17.76 an hour. You can't make this stuff up. We have members who are homeless. We have members who are my age living in people's basements. That's a reality of work at the university right now. I work in dining, and I think many of you have heard the news stories about what's going on there, where students can't get a lot of the food that they would expect. The reason they can't get this food is they can't hire workers here at the university at these wages. So instead, what they're doing is bringing in temporary workers who earn $2, $4, $6 or more dollars an hour than those of us who have been here for decades. This is an injustice and we will not allow it to continue. I think the university is at a cross point right now. It says it strives for excellence, but instead it's impoverishing us, and we intend to put an end to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mick. Tofik. Don't forget to spell your last name as well.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Tofik Hassan. It's a TOWFIQ. I've been working at the U of A for 5 years. We are working in poor condition right now, and we still less people. I myself, I clean the classroom and the bathroom. I have to hustle to clean the classroom and do the bathroom. Also, it's not fair that there is a favoritism, which is that the people like the immigrants, the African American, and the white American people, they're paying more than we do. It's not fair that people come from Africa. Basically, we have to sacrifice a lot of stuff, like our kids' birthday or vacation. Can I go to Africa to visit our family because we don't have that much, we don't have no money. Save that money for the rent and for the food. We might go and try to show the U of A that we just better than we're not just the custodian. We're human. We deserve better. Everybody should pay equal. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you, Tofik. Sarah, come on up.
Hi, my name is Sarah Parcells, SARAPARCELLS. I've worked at the university for 25 years as a buildings and grounds worker. Last week, I joined my Teamster coworkers and voted to go on strike for better wages. Our wages have stayed the same or gone backwards since I begun 21 years ago. Some of my coworkers even are more shorthanded and impoverished than I am. I see it every day when I come to work. People are working 40 hours a week and yet we're still suffering. We know Joan Gable and the university administration can afford to pay us living wages. The university has record revenues and administrators are giving themselves huge raises. The time is now for Teamsters to get the raise we deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I'll open it up to questions. No, they do not. They do not have to. When the University of Minnesota served us last best final offer, they basically put a poison pill in there that kills it if we exercise our rights that we have under the Public Employee Labor Relations Act to authorize a strike. That's correct. Yeah, what I should do is I think it'd probably be helpful to explain the union's economic position and the reason that we're proposing a $20 an hour minimum wage. At our current wages, 62% of our members and former members have reported not being able to meet their basic monthly living expenses at one point or another. 19% of our members and former members surveyed have reported that they have had to give up meals on a day-to-day basis in order to meet their basic monthly living expenses. 12% of the members that we represent, that we surveyed, reported at one point during their working years at the University of Minnesota were homeless. So we don't believe we have any flexibility in our economic proposals. To top it off, I think Mick touched on this a little bit, but the University of Minnesota is bringing in contract workers into its dining services, and they've advertised it at a wage that's greater than $20 an hour. Our members that work in dining services start below $16 an hour. So yes, there are areas that we believe that we don't have any flexibility. This union has not struck the University of Minnesota, so it would be the first time, if that's where we go, that we'll have struck the University of Minnesota. I don't want to release a date. What I want to focus on is going back to the bargaining table with the union's negotiating committee, and letting forcing the University of Minnesota to bargain in good faith, do what's right. The University of Minnesota it's a prized institution here in Minnesota. It's one of the largest universities in the country by enrollment population, and it's one of the largest employers in the state of Minnesota. While they take pride in leading in their medical schools, or the Carlson School of Management, or the University of Minnesota's law school, they should lead in the community and pay a living wage. It's tough for me to speak on behalf of the members to a question like that. But what I can see as part of the problem is probably the financialization of higher education, where they're more focused on their university profits, and paying extraordinary salaries to top administrators at the University of Minnesota. I think they just gave Joan Gable in recent history greater than a $200,000 pay raise. Spread the wealth a little bit. I think if is that Ken Hortzman that put that statement out? I think he probably should have thought before he made a comment like that. But when you pay workers poverty wages, you're putting the burden on the taxpayer to take care of those people. Why not pay a living wage so somebody like Tofik or Mick or Sarah can go to work and feel dignified by the work that they do and the opportunity to earn an income? Sure. I can a little bit. I actually have a student at the University of Minnesota, and it's interesting. She's been sharing the TikToks that students are putting out, and the comments and the dialogue about the lack of food, or the potential mold in some of the dorms. So I do believe that the students will support this workforce. We have to remember as I mentioned earlier, these are the folks that are responsible for the quality of life that the students enjoy on the campuses. So I'm not quite sure why the University of Minnesota is playing games with that. If we are forced to strike the University of Minnesota by the University of Minnesota, it will take as long as it takes to negotiate the priorities. I can't speak to that right now. There are other questions? I appreciate everybody coming out today. Thank you so much. Gus, do we have any questions on nothing? Okay, great. Thank you.